I'm M Buell of M Buell Studio, and on behalf of the Woodworking Network, this is your monthly video segment for the young wood pros. It has been a long, challenging few months in the year on some jobs, and that is what the topic this month is: how to deal with challenging jobs. In the words of the great Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Happens in work life too. Sometimes as a woodworker, you've got a plan and you're going about it and it kind of don't work. You got to adjust. So we're going to talk about challenges. The obvious one is, dealing with people. Anytime you're bringing outside people into situations, the variables for where it could go wrong grow exponentially. And I've talked about that in previous columns and videos about how to deal with clients and suppliers and things are kind of tricky, how to navigate personalities and principles. And so you can go back and look at that catalog. I will throw it out there one more time. The best thing I could ever do is always listen and gather the perspective of others to make sure that I'm behaving in a way that is honest and above board. There's another aspect of where challenging jobs happen as a professional woodworker. So let's get to it. So, the most typical challenge you're going to find as a young wood pro is that you're a woodworker. And we have this dubious luxury of working with a material that isn't always the most forgiving and oftentimes can be quite humbling. There have been many times where I've done a build or worked on a piece and done it by the book, following the construct of traditional methods to a T. And still the wood wants to do something different. It happens. Wood sometimes, heck, it'll move around and throw a fit just like a toddler you just told no. So the challenges typically for us can be very unexpected. That's what makes them challenging. If you could plan for them, it's not so hard, is it? Wood itself is a very difficult material to work with for most people. And then you can get even more complex about it in talking about different species. White oak, rock maple, walnut. They all behave differently. They have different density or different hardness levels on the Jakarta scale. They have different qualities that make them less or more pleasing to work with. This is where a lot of your challenges come from. Now, I'm not going to get into talking about wood movement and all the different things that go into woodworking. That's a long video. Heck, that's a series of classes. What I want to talk about is the challenge it can present. The more knowledgeable you can be about the material you work with for a living, the better off you are. You will foresee the challenges ahead of the time, therefore yielding less challenges. But even the best of us can get surprised, punched in the face. And I've had several times where I've had a piece act crazy when it shouldn't have. You got to know how to kind of adjust and move through it. These create challenges in jobs. So, to give you a better idea of what that can look like, I'm going to give you a personal example. So, last few months I've been on a very large job. It consisted of a 9-foot by 5-foot dining table with a sculpted base, a matching buffet, and 12 chairs that have 4-foot backs, bent, curved, solid. And man, I had a challenge come up. Matter of fact, I was sitting there thinking the other day, towards the end of the job, when I'd had my you-know-what kicked as hard. And it's been a long time. It took me back to probably about year one on a set of chairs, believe it or not, where it was a real struggle, where it was just a lot of challenges and I had a lot of, what I call audibles. I had to change a lot of play calls as I was going. About 12 years ago. And so it really took me back to when I first got into woodworking and starting a business. So I felt like this was a great topic for y'all. So I'm in on these chairs, and everything, 90% of the build's rock maple. If you're not familiar with rock maple or hard maple, it's dense. I'd have better luck cutting limestone on a bandsaw for veneers. These chairs were supposed to be solid back with a curve, and that's a lot of rock maple. And I knew rock maple is heavy, but boy, I really undersold how heavy those suckers were going to get. So about halfway through the build, I realized these were going to be so heavy they wouldn't function properly as chairs, be usable. And I called the client and let him know we'd do a design change. Now, my contracts, I can charge for that. But because I missed on that too, I run an honest business that's fair. I didn't do that. There were no changes in fees. I just had to change the entire build of the chair because he wanted that design. So I had to do all veneers out of rock maple. Bent laminations with rock maple. It's dense. It's kind of brittle. I mean, it chips out easy. It's not a pleasant species to work with comparatively to walnut. So what started as a job where these were the templates to work with. Chairs were quick. Buffet base, one side of the legs. Pretty easy to work with. Pretty good start, not a problem. I had to pivot and turn to all this. Having a 5 horsepower shaper saved me, I won't lie. I recommend learning to use one safely. The point I'm making here is never once did I question, can I do it? And I remember that same thought back when I first started. It was never a can I do this? It wasn't a can I, it's how am I going to do this? And 2 quotes in one video, to quote the great Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher, the obstacle is the way. In other words, what is blocking my path is my path. And a lot of times, as much mastery as you have as a woodworker, or as much planning as you put into something, or as much experience as you have, an obstacle will still be put in front of you. And running a small business or being a young wood professional getting started out, it is inevitable you're going to have some roadblocks. And unfortunately, sometimes your best shot is to grind it out and go right at it. It's a good way to find out what you're made of and how bad you want it. How bad you want it. So what did I do? I changed my plan, and I was willing to go the extra heavy hours and get it done. But that's how I look at challenges. If I can't hire help in to make a difference, in a time frame that's reasonable, if there's no machinery upgrades, at some point it's going to come down to just good old manpower. How much you got? Are you willing to get in there and get it? How much grit do you have? They're very defining moments. I was able to draw on my experience, knowing I can do that, and do it again. I hope I don't have to do it again for a little bit though. Smooth sailing sounds pretty good. But challenging jobs come up, and a lot of times we have to just push through them. I know I sound like I'm being a bit of a hard you-know-what, but what I'm trying to tell you is just because you're really good at something doesn't mean some tasks aren't just hard. And I always will encourage you to look at your efficiency and how you work and your process and where you can upgrade equipment or help. But sometimes there is no quick way around a difficult, challenging spot in a job besides hard work, intense effort, and hours on hours. I learned some good lessons on this thing recently. I'm not going to forget them, and I guarantee you down the road, they'll pay me back tenfold. I'll get paid back one way or another by the hours I might have put in that I didn't account for. It's okay for a job to be hard, no matter how good you are. I like it. It means I'm still learning. Tune in next month. See you then.